Hey guys, welcome back to the Basswood Carving Chatter. This is episode 3. Hope everybody had a good new year and a happy Christmas and holidays. So today we're with Ken, and Ken has Head to the Woods Whittling channel, and I asked him to come on and talk about his channel a little bit, and we're just going to have another little chat like we have the last 2 shows. And it's been really fun getting to meet the carvers I watch on YouTube all the time. So it's nice to meet you, Ken, and I appreciate you coming on. And so how's things going? How was your holidays?
Great.
Good.
Nice to meet you too, Ron, face to face, like
Yeah.
as it is in this technology that we have today.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun. My holidays were great. Little family time, little time off.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was very nice.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. So what area of the country are you in?
I'm in the lovely Northeast in New Jersey.
Okay. So you got some snow up there then.
We did. We got maybe 4 or 5 inches the other yesterday. I think
Wow.
yesterday. So
Wow.
we did do a good job clearing everything out around here.
Yeah.
So we're back
Yeah.
right out as soon as
Yeah.
it happens. So,
That's the thing about up north. You guys got a handle on getting rid of snow real quick. Down here, we see snow. We're like, well, salt trucks should be out by the morning.
they start here. They know it's coming. They prep the roads. They get everything ready to go.
Yeah.
And like that, it's cleared. I mean, if the snow stops within an hour, you're able to get back on all the roads again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that quick. Everybody handles it pretty quickly around here. So,
Yeah.
thankfully.
It's a little different down here. When it snows, it's like nobody's ever drove in snow before.
Well, I'm not gonna comment about the driving. That's universal, no matter where you live.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it's like, but I don't know. I'm a spring and summer kind of guy, man. I just really, I'm not a big winter fan.
No, I'm fall and winter. That's my time. Summer.
Really?
Like I live in New Jersey, but honestly, my heart is in Vermont because
Okay.
That's probably my eventual destiny.
Oh, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, we're heading up there in not too long from now. Actually.
Yeah. I was up there, and I can't remember. It's been a while. It was parents took us on a vacation up there, and we went fishing in some couple spots up there. My family's we like to fish, so we like to go places and go fishing trips and stuff like that. And so I noticed your heading on your YouTube channel has got a nice, big, beautiful spot to fish on it. Are you a fisherman?
No, actually, I haven't fished in many years.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not sure that fishing in most of the lakes around here would be a very good idea. I guess you could toss it back in. I don't know if I bring the stuff home at the ocean. I think the last time I went fishing was probably off the coast. Doing that type of thing. But again, I don't. It's not something I do regularly. But
So what got you into carving and whittling?
Well, that goes back a little ways. I think I had an interest in various types of art forms, sculpturing type things, art forms. And many years ago, probably back in the early 2000s, I picked up a copy of Wood Carving Illustrated and saw a couple, pictures in there and the idea of carving. And then I went out and bought a book by Rick Butts which he's a carver from, I think he lived up in the Adirondacks at one point, and he did a lot of carving way back, probably in the 80s and 90s. I'm guessing. I think he might have even had a channel on PBS at some point. I don't know. But anyway, I bought one of his books on how to whittle, wood carve. I think it was the Adirondacks man, and that was my first carving. That goes back probably to 2003, 4, something like that. I mean, that long ago. And, it came out probably pretty crappy. I still have it somewhere, but, and I found it incredibly difficult to do. The knives were not very sharp, and I had no clue how to sharpen them. The basswood I was using was old and really hard. And it was like, I said, there's something wrong here. Everybody, he makes it look so easy. Why am I struggling with it? So I played around with it. And then I remember at that point, Wood Carving Illustrated had an online site, and it had an online forum. And you used to go to the forum and you could read, people's comments, and some people posted tutorials. And I took an interest in flat plane carving. Harley Rothschild was probably the first person I saw in that style. The flat plane carving was basically done with one knife. It's a Swedish style of carving. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Absolutely.
So I logged on to that section of the forum, found a couple of tutorials, found one guy that I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And he posted way back then, like not a video tutorial, but image tutorials, I believe it was. And I took all that down. I copied it. I brought it into a Word or something like that, printed it all out, took it down to the basement with me, and started whittling in his style. And it shows you how far back I go with Gene Messer.
Yeah.
It was Gene's tutorial. He way back then was and I label him as probably my main influence early on for actually figuring out how to wood carve.
Yeah.
Whittle. And so I used his tutorials back then, and I literally copied his style and his little figures that he was doing at that time. He was the one who got me, I guess, that interested in whittling and wood carving at that time. So
I wonder if he ever realizes how many people he actually got started into wood carving, because it's like everybody's had Gene as the influence, and I was the same way. I picked up a knife, and my grandpa like I said, we were talking off camera, I like to fish, so we would always, my dad didn't fish, my grandpa always did, so he would take us fishing, and we'd be sitting there and we fished for catfish. So, you cast a line out there, you might not get a bite for an hour, but I'd always sit there and watch, and he'd go over and pick up a piece of wood off the ground somewhere and start carving away on it. And next thing you know, he'd have a little bear or a little sheep or something like that, and just with his little pocket knife. And he passed away, and I got his pocket knife. And one day I was sitting there and picked up a piece of pine and thought, I'm gonna start learning how to whittle, and went in and thought, I wonder if there's any videos on YouTube about whittling, and of course back then this was before Doug Linker or anybody, and pulled up, and here's Gene, sure enough. And like, you look back at his videos, he's gone back 12, 15 years of videos, and he was doing a little totem, like totem pole type thing. What do you call it? Got a brain fart there for a minute, but he was carving a little, whittling something, and I was whittling along with him, and mine didn't look anything like his, when it got done, but it was fun, and it was a piece of pine, so I didn't know what basswood was or anything like that. But yeah, it's amazing how many people Gene's probably influenced.
Absolutely.
The flat plane style.
He really has, and he's been a gift, I think, to the carving community and whittling community, because his approach, his style, and you can tell by his personality when he's doing his videos. He's one of those individuals who you naturally take a liking to. He's a real genuine individual, and I commend him for that. And I appreciate him getting me started way back. Like I said, this is going back to Wood Carving Illustrated in the forums, before YouTube, before any of that. And so that's essentially it. And I whittled for a few years back then, and then, as most beginning whittlers, wood carvers, you start to look at other things to do, other ways to whittle. And I got a bunch of gouges. I started using those. I did that for a while and kind of got away from the knife whittling. Just did primarily work with a mounted piece on a carving vise, essentially.
Yeah.
And did 3-dimensional. I brought a couple pieces that I did back then. This is probably, I don't know if you can see it. This is probably,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, this is my little Buddha. He's done in butternut, and he's done with on mounted on a carving vise.
yeah. Can you hold it like kind of a little closer to the camera? Yeah,
There you go.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this was done. I don't know. I thought I dated it, but it's probably 10 years ago or more. And this little figure here, this big guy, same type of thing. He was done in that style.
Oh yeah.
So
That was
those were
butternut,
that's actually that's walnut.
walnut.
That piece was walnut. And so I did that for a while. Took it's fun. But as you and I were talking about before we actually started taping here, um, when you work primarily with gouges, you have to also commit yourself to maintaining those
Yeah.
gouges. And I wanted to learn more about different types of gouge work. And I mentioned too when we were talking before that I had taken an interest in relief carving, and I took a class with Mary May, who's a relief carver from the U.S. who does phenomenal work. She's extremely talented. And I took a class with her up in Maine a number of years ago. And I remember when she went around the horn in the class and asked people, what their experience was and what they were good at. And I had done whittling and even some three-dimensional gouge work. But I mentioned to her that I felt that I was an expert at destroying sharp edges of tools. That's what I was good at. Because gouges, if you don't maintain them, they're very difficult to maintain. So and I have a nice set, but I don't really use them that much anymore. Palm gouges, but not the full carving gouges. I don't use them that much anymore because they are very difficult to maintain, and you have to be committed to doing that and be good at it. It's not something that's very easy to do. I mean, getting a knife sharp is a challenge itself, but it's doable for most people within a short period of time. Gouges, especially with all the different profiles, and don't even talk to me about maintaining the edge on a V gouge because it's.
I know what you mean.
It's tough.
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I have two carving clubs that I can go to, and one of our carving teachers has one of the pulley systems with all the wheels on it and all that, the discs and stuff. So I am fortunate that I can take my tools in there and put them to the strops on the wheel, which helps out a lot. But you're right. I mean, and you drop one on the ground, you got a heck of a nick. I mean, I was sitting out on my patio one day carving and had my tools, had my V gouge, little micro gouge, actually, little flex cut micro gouge sitting on the table, and it has a round handle on it. And where I live, there's wind all the time. It's hard for me to even do a video outside because of the wind. And it blew, and my little gouge rolled off the table and hit the concrete patio. And oh man, it put a big old ding in it and bent over the edge. And I was like, I don't even know if I can ever fix this thing, But I took it to carving club, and there's an old carver there, and I was telling him about it, and he's like, let me take a look at it. He's like, you care if I mess with it for a minute? I was like, no, absolutely, go ahead. He got a little stone out, and he got to working on it, and he probably worked on it for about 20, 25 minutes or so, and handing it back to me. And it was a little shorter, but it had a nice back edge right back on it. But
once you nick it, you're over time you will shorten those gouges. But it's a real skill in itself to maintain gouges. But and I've said that many times with whittling alone, just with a single knife or whatever you happen to be using, whether it's a knife or pocket knife or whatever type of knife you're using. The key, I think, that most people stumble over, and I've even seen videos of people using it, to me, from what I'm watching, they don't appear to have their tools sharp enough to cut through even basswood, or because you can kind of see the struggle, it should be. I mean, some basswood's harder than others, and in fact, the basswood I've been currently using for a couple of my carvings is actually quite hard. It's not probably the best basswood, but I had it, and I've been using it. But maintaining the edge on your knife and keeping it sharp as you can get it, and learning how to do that is
Yeah.
probably the key to any carving that you're going to do. I would, my recommendation, if you're getting into this as a hobby and you're just interested and you want to you want to take off with it, or just want to fool around on the front porch carving little figures, learn how to keep that knife sharp. Whatever knife you're using, it really doesn't matter what kind of knife
Yeah.
you use. Some are good for type of carving, certain types of carving, and over time you'll buy a few, as I'm sure you can attest to, Ron.
Oh
Over
yeah.
time, your carving collection of tools grows, knives and gouges and everything else, and strops and wheels and everything else. But when you
Yeah.
get right down to it, if you have a single knife, and you can even do it on wet dry sandpaper to get the edge on, and then just leather to strop it. But you got to spend the time
Yeah.
to do it and learn how to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You're right. And probably that's probably my biggest fallback is I don't strop enough.
Hmm.
And
Most people don't.
we have a stropping class, and it's like, well, when do when you stropped enough? He said, well, when you're done stropping, strop it some more. When you think you're done,
Yeah.
strop it some more. And I'm the same. It's like a couple of times I've went up to the woodcraft store and bought a box of, like our woodcraft store up here, they'll sell boxes of for like $25, and you can't even look at it. But when the time you get it home and you got 10 or 15 pieces, different size blocks of wood in there, and it's like, is this maple or is this basswood? This stuff is hard. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is hard to find that good northern basswood for sure. um
Yeah. What's the one everybody buys from? And I've bought plenty.
Heineke.
Well, Heineke, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, some of the Basswood I do have that I haven't gotten to yet is from them.
Yeah.
And I don't the Basswood I'm currently using. I have no idea where it's from or where I got it from, but it's definitely not as easy as Heineke's
Yeah.
Basswood that I've used in the past. But I've honestly I've carved lots of different woods over time. From Basswood obviously is the go-to for little figures, but I've
Yeah.
used, I mean, if you see my channel, I've picked up pieces of, I
Yep.
guess it's either pine or spruce from the big box stores,
Mhm.
and whittled on them, and it's doable. They're not ideal for
Yeah.
fine detail, forget it. It tends to be a bit more crumbly. But for just a quick, let me figure out if I can even do this kind of thing. And I think I've shown a few videos where I do it literally on a 1x piece of pine from the big box store using a Stanley 199
Yeah.
that I've sharpened, and I've stropped up to keep it. I mean, that's the key. I don't stick just the regular blade in there and start. It's not going to work. You gotta
Yeah.
sharpen that blade up. You got to put it on a
Yeah.
stone or something, get it nice and sharp, and then you can use it. But to
Yeah.
me, if you ruin it, you flip it around or you throw another one in there.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good way to learn how to sharpen a knife, I think.
Yeah. The first person I seen was Lynn Dowdy. Have you ever seen him?
I remember
And
him from Wood Carving Illustrated way back in the day.
yeah,
He used the
and I was
199.
like, is
Exactly.
he carving with a Stanley knife?
Yep. Yep.
And oh, he swears by it, man. And
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. I mean, because I get questions like through email and stuff, and on the comments a lot of times is like people like, well, what's the best knife should I buy? What's the best one to start with? And blah blah blah. And I mean, personally, I've never used a Stanley knife or a utility knife to carve with.
Right.
Um, but I watched some of your videos and I was like, wow, he's using a Stanley too.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. You can always put a new blade in, right?
This little guy here, whoops, there he goes. This
Yeah.
little hippie dude, he was done with the Stanley. And again, this goes back to, I'm looking at the date here. I don't know, 2009 or something like that. But this guy here and my little Abe, they were
Oh
both
man,
done.
that is cool.
Yeah, they were both done with Stanley knives, and way back when I first tried it out, and it might have been because of Lynn. And they literally have been. I saw him doing it on Wood Carving Illustrator, talking about it,
Yeah.
and I figured, let me try that. And again, I stuck a blade in there and said, this isn't working. And I figured, let me sharpen it up.
Yeah.
And I did, and lo and behold, it actually is pretty doable. Now, I definitely wouldn't recommend it for everything, but
Right.
you know what? It's actually not a bad knife. Certain I use a particular type of blade that lets you extend it a little bit further because it's got
Yeah, I
four.
noticed that. I
Yeah, it's
noticed
got
that.
four
Four
little
little notches on
notches
it.
in it that allows
Yeah.
you to extend it out a little bit
Yeah,
further.
I noticed that. I when
Mhm.
I seen one of your videos and I thought,
Right.
"Well, how's he get that knife blade to extend out?" Because I
Yeah,
know, I mean, I have a couple different ones that I use for, different things, and it's like I always try to get that blade a little longer, and it's
right.
so you
Yeah, you
actually
definitely
get a
wanna
blade.
have, you definitely wanna have a little if you can get those type of blades, that's great, but you definitely wanna have the 199, I think, because it actually screws together. The kind that retract is
Yeah,
probably not the best thing to be using for that, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
because they slide on you, don't they?
Potentially, they could slide on you, you don't wanna,
Yeah,
but honestly, there's so many available. You can probably get a pretty decent, whittling knife today for what, 20 to 30 bucks maybe, and
yeah,
they're usually uh, available from most places today. So it's the kind of hobby you buy yourself some
yeah,
basswood and you buy a $30 knife. Yeah, you can start whittling away for pretty
yeah,
cheap. And then if you want to buy some paints, people use all different types of faux car paints or whatever,
yeah,
whatever kind of paint you want to do. If you feel like painting a piece, if it's basswood, you probably have to.
yeah,
But that kind of it's one of the less expensive hobbies to kind of get into and
yeah,
enjoy.
right.
And at the end of the
I
day,
agree.
you have silly little figures that you can leave around the house and annoy people with. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's,
Or your wife takes them all. Everything my wife's always like, "Oh, I want that. I want that,"
right,
and it's like, okay, you can have it as soon as I get done with my video,
right,
Painting's the part I struggle with because I just can't get that, I look at some of these guys' paintings, wood carvings, and it's like, man, it's almost like how they just get that stained look, and I struggle so much with that. Is like getting that right consistency with the water and the paint, and then I got to put another coat on it, or I'm not dark enough, and
right.
I just struggle with the painting. Which, I also paint fishing lures. I do. I
Okay.
have I have a YouTube channel for I do fishing lures. That's kind of a hobby, and I got started doing that because my wife, when for my birthdays, was like about 3 years ago. Actually, again before the COVID, was like, "Well, I never know what to get you for your birthday. What do you want for your birthday?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, I've been kind of interested in maybe trying to learn how to airbrush, so I could airbrush my carvings." You
Hmm.
know, and just do some cool things on my wood carvings with airbrush. And she was like, "All
Hmm.
right." So she bought me a cheap little airbrush set, with the pump and all that, and some paints and stuff. And I quickly found out that painting wood carvings with an airbrush was not a very easy thing to do, especially if
Hmm.
you're a beginner and don't know how to use
Sure.
the airbrush, you know. So I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, what can I paint?" And I started watching these guys doing lures, fishing lures on YouTube, and I was like, "Well, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll try to learn how to do that, and then I can move into painting my wood carvings with the airbrush."
Hmm.
And I just got hooked on it. Painted some lures, and people was like, "Wow, those are good. Do you want to sell any of them?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. This is kind of just
Hmm.
a hobby. Didn't
Wow.
really
Yeah.
plan on turning it into a business, but so yeah, I started put a little Facebook store up, and my friends wanted to buy some lures, and next thing you
Yeah.
know, it was like crazy. And now
Wow.
I
Yeah.
get 3 or 4 orders every day about
Hmm.
for lures, and so
Yeah.
well, hey, I can do another YouTube channel and teach people
Gotta do that.
how
Yeah,
to
I've
paint lures.
never used an airbrush before. I thought about uh, getting an airbrush set for some other interests that I have, but I never have. I've always heard that they can be, relatively difficult to maintain and keep clean. You spend a lot of time doing that, and I guess you need proper ventilation and what have you too.
Um,
Um,
well, to be
but maybe
honest with
not.
you,
I don't know.
it wasn't it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be either. I mean,
Hmm.
I was the same way. I was like, ah, man, this might take me a year to learn how to use this thing and
Right.
stuff like that, but the paints are acrylic paints, just like your wood
Oh, okay.
carving paints.
I didn't
So
know
they
that.
don't have no fumes. The airbrush cleaner I use is Windex.
Oh, okay. Really? I
Windex
didn't
works
know.
really
Okay.
good.
Wow.
Um, occasionally, I think for me it was learning the consistency of the paint. Like some
Hmm.
paints you'll get,
Sure.
they're real thick, so you get a little. It's a reducer. It's almost
Right.
just like a watered down. It's pretty much watered down, really, is all it
Right.
is. And you just learn how to get that consistency,
Mhm.
and you never leave your airbrush with paint in
Yeah.
it. Because you come back an hour later and it's dry, and
Right. Well,
then
it's the same thing
you
with
battle.
a brush. Yeah,
Yeah,
you want
exactly.
to always keep the brush clean. I
Yeah,
used early on when I was wood carving. I used oil paints to do the carvings, and
yeah,
I think back in the day, a lot of people used oil
yeah,
paints um, for a whole variety of reasons. It's just kind of a natural fit for wood to apply oil to it rather than water, which tends to, it does have a tendency to kind of make things dry out a bit after,
yeah,
or it can, or kind of screws up the finish. It can raise the grain a bit, so you can
yeah,
get a bit of fuzziness out of it after you paint it with that. But again, it's trial and error. You learn how to kind of use it. But now I strictly just use acrylic paints,
yeah.
and but I use a very watered consistency, so I apply it most of the time like a stain rather than
Right.
opaque. I don't use an
Yeah,
opaque finish. I know a lot of people do opaque and then they apply like the folk art, what's it called? The antiquing solution
yeah,
to
yeah,
enrichen it. If you do like I do, if you use a watered down, almost a stain it, you can't use that. I tried it one time and it just ruined the whole carving.
yeah.
But it's only for opaque a paint, an opaque style where you have a heavier coat of
Right,
heavier coat of paint on there.
right,
But so I tend to just use it. I like to see the wood grain through. I don't particularly
right.
like a very opaque finish on my carvings. I like to see the grain, and even with basswood, you do see a little bit of the grain when you do it that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, the painting, I guess, is another. I like painting in general. I've whether it's on a canvas or board or on a wood carving, I like it. So it's not something
yeah,
that I you know I enjoy that part of it. I should say.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I enjoy the carving a little bit more because sometimes it can be a little fitzy painting little figures.
Right.
But whoop, let me
Nope,
get my
I'm
phone.
sorry. I'm
That's
gonna
okay.
have to get
Go
my phone real quick. I'm just gonna
ahead. Go
stop.
ahead.
Okay.
You just gave me a chance
Sorry
to get
about
a
that.
drink. You gave me a chance to get a drink of water.
That's it. That's
That's
okay.
it. Yeah,
Sorry about that.
no,
My mom had she has a pacemaker, so she had to have a new battery put in her pacemaker yesterday, and
oh boy.
um, she's doing fine. But I thought maybe that might have been her and
Oh, yeah,
making sure.
nothing. Right.
But yeah, so what? Let's talk about your channel. What made you want to start doing a YouTube channel?
Uh, well, I think I started not quite 2 years ago. I had downsized living arrangements to be closer
Hmm.
to work, and so I didn't have outbuildings and basements and what have you that I used to have back in the day, which allowed me to do wood turning and like I was mentioning before, the relief style carving or furniture making, whatever other interests
Right.
I had that I spent a lot of time doing. I had to get rid of all those tools because I don't have anywhere to put them where we're currently living.
Yeah.
And so I figured, I really wanted to get. I think it was right before COVID really set in. I really wanted to get a little hobby that I could use in the arrangements that we're currently at. So I said, you know what, I'm going to pull out my old box of carving knives, and because like I said, I got into it way back in the early 2000s with Gene. Sort of over the years, did a bunch of other different things. I mean, if there's lots of different styles of shaping wood, and I think I've tried. some with not that much success. I've tried various things. I even did chainsaw carving for a while, much to the chagrin of, I think, my neighbors at that point, because it's, but I have fun. I did a few pieces, and I gave a few away, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's more visceral, I guess, as an event, but anyway, I tried it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you need some space and room to do, but it was fun. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And eventually, like I said, once we scaled down, I didn't have a lot of space for tools. I decided that I'm gonna pull out the knives again and whittle. And I probably a year before that, I started watching some videos on YouTube, different carvers, and in my mind, Gene always ranks up there as the guy that, as in terms of the history of wood carving and his ability to teach people. He's kind of that Bob Ross
Yeah.
of wood carvers.
Yeah.
His personality and his style is so amiable that he's enjoyable to watch and enjoyable to learn from. My other primary source that got me interested in carving, essentially with one or two knives, is Kevin Coates. I look at him as probably the master of that style of wood carving. I was really amazed at his work, and he's extremely talented in terms of that figure type carving. I really admire his skill and his craftsmanship in this type of art form or hobby, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I watched a bunch of his videos, maybe started those a few years ago, and it said, I'm definitely gonna pull my knives out again. In fact, I even made a knife, a Kevin Coates quote unquote knife. He used an old fillet knife, fishing filleting knife, maybe something you're familiar with. It's a long, it's got a pretty stout handle, but it's a long, I think, 11-inch blade and shaped down. If you ever see his channel, I'm sure people, if they're into whittling, most people have watched him.
Yeah,
I don't know that he uses it as much anymore, but he had this knife, and I'm like, where did he get that knife from? Then he made in his comments, he mentioned that it was a filleting knife. So I looked around and I found the same type, and I ordered it, cut it down the size and shaped it and everything, and used it. In fact, I think I have a couple of videos early on of me using that knife, and I'm like, this guy's good. He was just really. I really admired his in this art form, or whatever you want to call it. I really rank him as probably a master in that style. So I watched those videos and started doing carving on my own. But like everything, you do them. Oh, this is a nice carving. Leave it here, leave it there. Throw them in a bag or whatever. I said, I really have to have a reason for doing this. And so I said, you know what? Why not try YouTube? Why not? It'll give me a reason to actually sit there and do a carving.
Yeah.
And so I did. I started it. Did a few carving. Did a few videos. It was new, and my video recording, I think at the time, was kind of not the best. I really had no clue of how to film or record, I should say. I'm dating myself when I say film. How to lighting, video editing, and all that. So I did it for a while. Got sidetracked into home renovation stuff that we were working on. Kind of put it off to the side, and one day, my wife was looking at one of my older videos, maybe from 8 months prior. I hadn't done any in that time frame, and she said, you have like a lot of views on a couple of your videos. And I said, really? So I said, you know what? Let me get back into it, and let me try to improve the video quality, and maybe do a couple tutorials. I had a couple comments where people had said, can you do a more full fleshed out tutorial? I tend not to, talk through my videos. I know some people have expressed interest in that. But So I kind of got back into it probably earlier this year, maybe, and started producing videos. And in every one, I've kind of learned a little bit better in terms of lighting, in terms of video
Yeah.
editing. And you and I were talking. You maybe it takes you an hour to carve a piece, and it takes you 2 hours to do the video editing and upload.
Yeah.
And all that. It can be quite involved, but it's a
Yeah.
fun, it's fun, and I enjoy it. And
Yeah. You
I,
got
yeah,
quite a bunch of videos up.
I do.
You know how many total videos you have?
I don't off the top of my head.
I know it's like somebody will ask you, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm making one tomorrow. you know, um, yeah,
Yeah, I
and
started one last night. I've been doing these little fella
yeah,
carvings
little
last
fellas.
2, yeah,
I watched
and
Little Fella 1 and Little Fella 2. Those are
yeah,
kind of neat.
they're
It's
little quirky little things. Like I said, they're
yeah,
it's funny what the type of videos that people seem to find interesting. I know the little gnome
yeah.
guys, for some reason, they seem to be really popular
It's
when you do a
crazy,
gnome
ain't it?
character.
It's
Um,
it is, and when you look at other channels and stuff, you can gauge what people like, and it's like,
mhm.
I'm always like, well, I want to do something that nobody's done yet, and then it was kind of like during Halloween, I was like, well, everybody's doing a witch,
Which I
and I
did.
don't know if I'm going to do a witch or not. And then I watched some other people do witches. I saw your witch,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, man, the witch is popular. Heck, your witch right now has got 1,000 more over 1,000 views on it, or
Right,
just from Halloween. And
right,
I was like, well, I guess I'll do a witch. I'll do my little style of witch or whatever.
right,
And then it's like, bam, you start getting all these views on it, and it's like,
right.
wow, everybody's doing a witch, but that's what everybody wants to see, and kind of the
Mhm.
gnomes and
Right,
and the Santas and all
right.
that. It's like,
Yeah.
but you know what? I mean, what's cool is like all the carvers I watch, all you guys and myself included, is like we all have a different little style, and nothing's the same. You know what I
No.
mean?
Right.
You can look
Exactly.
at one of Jeffro Carves as Santas, or
Mhm.
you look at mine or yours, but they're not the same. And
Mm-mm.
I believe that's the beauty of the art, is that you can
Right.
create a Santa, I can create a Santa, and there's not going to be the same,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
But
I think that's the key. And I mean, I don't know if people that are watching, I mean, I don't have a large subscriber base, but if the people, and I think, on average, my videos maybe get 300 to 400 views type of thing. Some obviously more than others, but I've had a
yeah,
couple that had a few thousand views, some of the older ones. But uh, I don't know if they're watching it as these are beginners trying to get into the hobby, or these are people like you and me who have whittled before and are just interested to see other people's style. Probably a
yeah,
combination of the two.
yeah,
It seems like the comments that I do get are from people. I just started into it. I appreciate you
yeah,
doing this type of thing, and you know, and that helps me. That inspires me to
yeah,
produce videos
absolutely,
that maybe are geared more towards beginners. Um, and
yeah,
simple,
absolutely,
like I said, simple types of carvings with maybe a single nice knife or two. Only recently, I think in the last one I did, I brought in a couple palm gouges to texture the hair.
hmm
There's another carver, I believe he's from Korea. He's done a number of videos recently.
yeah,
I don't. His name isn't part of it, and I think it's D. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on that
Dalo
one.
or Didalo
Right,
or something like
and
that. Yeah,
yeah, and I've enjoyed his videos. He's really
yeah,
great. He does nice work, and he produces some high quality stuff. And I don't think he's been doing it all that long. I think he mentioned in a couple of videos he's relatively new to it, maybe within
yeah,
the last couple of years.
yeah,
And he really extremely tastes done some beautiful pieces recently.
yeah,
And so I tend to, when I see carvers, and there's probably not all that many wood carvers out there on YouTube compared to people with, a golden retriever and a cat, fighting on a bed type of thing that gets a million
yeah,
views. Our channels, if we can break 1,000 or 2,000 views, that's pretty phenomenal.
yeah,
But it's if you can get people into the hobby and get them interested into doing something creative, then I think that's a plus for just, people in general. I think the idea of expressing yourself in a creative way is always a plus in
Yeah.
this world, because it makes people, it slows you down a bit. It slows the pace of our chaotic lives down a bit, and it gets you to do something that's maybe outside your comfort zone, so to
Yeah.
speak. People who
Yeah.
haven't done that
Absolutely.
before. And it's like I was mentioning earlier, it's one of those fairly inexpensive hobbies to get into.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to get your knife sharp, and you can buy some, like I said, you can even go to the big box store and buy yourself a piece of spruce or pine and whittle away on that. Don't expect a lot of detail, but like I said, I've done a
Yeah.
few videos. You can get some product out of that too, and just have fun doing it. That's the key.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, you shouldn't go into this hobby with the intention like, well, this is going to be a business. I'm going to make, I'm going to sell these
Yeah.
videos, I'm going to sell this stuff. Yeah, if you want to, and you do, great. That's fun. But if you look at it as a means of expressing some form of creativity and bringing something positive into this world, then hey, by all means,
Yeah,
enjoy it.
absolutely. And it's addicting too. It's
It
like
is.
once I picked up that knife and started carving into a piece of wood, and I always wonder, why does my grandpa sit over there, and carve these things all the time, but it's once you put that knife to the wood, even if your project doesn't turn out, there's just something that feels good about, taking a piece of wood and shaping it into something,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
and, we were talking earlier before we started recording about, c- what car- what carving am I going to do next? That's probably the biggest challenge for most people that doing YouTube is, like what kind of carving? What do I do next?
Right.
Um, what
That is.
about you? Do
Yeah.
you carve a piece before you do a video, or do you just
You
sit
know,
down and
yeah, it depends. Some of my videos are straight out. Just got a piece of wood and I have a general idea.
right?
I think more recently I've tried to, in an attempt to maybe increase the quality of production, or the flow of the video. Um, I've tried to map out a plan ahead of time. What I tend to do is, like here, I have like sketches that I
Okay.
do. I'll sketch out characters. These are a couple of characters I've done
Yeah.
ahead of time. Maybe a front and a profile. Somebody had asked me that about doing heads or faces or bodies, and I had recommended try, even if you're not good at sketching, and I'm not. I just play around and I
Yeah.
just get the form and the idea. It gets you thinking in those two dimensions that you're going to be working with when you're carving. Because a lot of people, I think, struggle the fact that it's like 3D. You're carving something in 3D. If
Yeah.
you're used to drawing or looking at a painting or whatever the case may be, this is
Right.
something you got to actually have some sense of scale and proportion to. And sometimes if you draw it ahead of time, your mind starts to envision it that way. So when you start your carving, it kind of flows a little better. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do it that way. But I also just, I'll pick up a piece of wood and just go at it, and whatever comes, comes. And I've done a few videos where, and it probably shows that, I started out one way maybe, and it because of, either a whim or a mistake, I've had to change it.
Right.
And that's probably another an interesting point, and I'm sure we've all had that, where you're carving a piece and you're going at it and you're doing the mustache or the mouth, and you have to go a little too far and you snip off the end of the nose or something.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
Yeah.
the big nose wizard that you want, it becomes a little snub nose gnome or something, because now you have to
Yeah.
figure out a way to manipulate to throw it in the wood pile and start again. But
Yeah.
knowing how to kind of fix those little quirky mistake, because we all do,
Yeah. Oh
little
yeah.
layers on
Yeah.
our carvings every so often. Get the
Yeah.
eye. I've done a couple of times where I've noticed that one eye is quite a bit lower than the other. I'm like, how did I not see that when I was doing it?
Yeah. We
But
were
one
doing a
thing about videoing, I think you tend to now have a record of what you were doing, and I look back and I go, no, why did I do that way?
yeah. We was at we was doing a little face seminar. One of the guys was teaching a face seminar, and one of the things he said that always sticks in my mind is there's always a face under a face, so if you mess
That's
that
right.
face up, you
That's right.
carve it off and
That's
you put
right.
another face on there. And the
That's
beauty
true.
of caricature carving is, so little heads, big feet, big hands,
Right.
it's like, so there is some leniency there when
Yeah.
you
I think that's
when
a,
you mess up.
those are right. You do. You can kind of, we're not doing exact proportions. Usually,
Yeah,
if anybody's taken any type of drawing or art class, they tell you the human body's like 7 or 8 heads long.
yeah,
In our little whittling figures, there may be like 3. Mine, I think, turn out to be maybe 3 heads large, and some of the recent ones I've done are probably just 2. But
yeah,
that's the beauty of it. You can kind of have fun with and just
yeah,
joke around with the proportions a bit.
yeah. It is.
I
It
had one
is.
guy comment. He goes, "That's one big head on that little body." Okay, and you're right. It is, and I know that I intended it that way, but it kind of worked out. You
Yeah,
start to get involved with the head, and you're like, "I like the way this is coming out." Then you don't have that much
yeah,
wood left for the body.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's
It's a lot of fun.
it,
It's a
it
lot of fun
it's
and addictive. And I think, you were talking about the drawings and how you plan them out. Like, and sometimes I think it's more of a confidence thing for me is like, well, I think I better carve one of these before I start making a
mhm,
video, just so I at least know what I'm going to talk about, or give a direction of
right,
how to get to the finished piece, and I found out that sometimes when I just sit down and carve something on a video without doing it ahead of time, it ends up being one of my best carvings, or one of my better videos, just
right.
because, I don't have a plan,
Yeah,
and
no, you're
just
right.
go on it as I
Yeah,
go.
that
And
and there's nothing wrong with that. To actually just take a piece of wood and just start cutting, and whatever comes out of it comes out of it.
yeah,
If you're doing a video, like you said, sometimes you're. I mean, the thing is, I've done that too, where I'm carving something and I'm taping it, and it doesn't necessarily come out well. That video is obviously not getting uploaded.
yeah,
But sometimes I know some people do. They'll have multiple figures. You can see them that they've
yeah,
done, and that's great. I've seen some of your videos like that too. And I was mentioning it to my wife just the other day. I said I should probably have a bunch of little figures on there so people can see right off the bat some variations that you can do. Because a lot of
yeah,
people are like, well, I don't want
yeah,
to copy his style directly, but maybe I like the idea of that head and that hat or that
right,
color scheme, whatever the
right,
thing may be. And it makes it, potentially even more interesting for people or beneficial for people to
yeah,
learn from.
yeah. Well, and I like some of my videos, like, well, what I found out was, like, when I do a video, and that the first thing people ask me in the comments or in the email is, "Do you have a pattern for that?
Mhm.
Do you have a pattern for that?" So I thought, well, you know what? I am going to work some off of patterns, because I
Mhm.
understand that there are people out there like, I'm not an artistic person. I couldn't draw a figure and it actually, you know, but now when you're doing caricature, it's a little easier. You can kind of have, like you say, a bigger head, or bigger hands, or bigger boots, or whatever you're doing with your character. But I started thinking to myself, like, what if these are new carvers that don't have an idea or don't have a plan? How can I add these patterns in there so
Mhm.
that they have a starting point, you
Right.
know so a lot of times I will do some patterns, but I'll always try to take a pattern and put my little twist on it. It's like, somehow, how can I take this piece of line art right here that, like you said, is two-dimensional, and I got to make it into three-dimensional, you know
Mhm.
but how can I make this a little different than just carving this piece of art out of, like, a piece of clip art or something.
Mhm.
And that becomes a challenge sometimes, and it's even fun, that I can take this pattern here and turn it into something that's a three-dimensional piece. So a lot of times in my videos, I'll use a starting pattern or something to give somebody a direction of
Sure.
where to go and things like that. But
Yeah, that it can be a real plus to people. I know when I started carving years ago, that's in fact I was talking about watching Gene's videos at the time. Well, I'm sorry, not his videos, but his postings on Wood Carving Illustrated back in the
mhm.
day. I think he had little patterns for people to
Yeah,
copy, and a couple books that I had bought. Um, Price. Is it Tom? I forget he's carving the little character. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he has a book, and he has a basic little character. In fact, I think I did one of my videos is on doing his basic little character.
Yeah.
And Jack Price. I'm sorry,
Jack Price. Yeah.
Jack Price. And he has a pattern, and if you can kind of start with that, sometimes it's simple to see the initial cuts that you're going to make or the initial shape you're going to do, and then you realize with that initial pattern that you're using, or initial carving that you make, you can actually then start changing it to form many different characters.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it kind of makes it fun for people who are just looking at to create a little variety in their work, and simple things that you can do. I know a lot of times people even talk about they struggle with the face, and there's plenty of ways you can do carvings. I've seen a lot of videos recently on figures with even the last couple I've done. I don't even, my eye is literally under the hat, and there's a little cut down this way from the nose, and then a little back cut for the piece of wood. And then a little black dot that forms the eye. That's really sometimes all you need, just something simple like that to give the illusion of that form. And if you're doing a beard and a mustache, obviously you don't have to worry about the mouth. And if you're doing long hair, you don't have to worry about the ears. And some of those things can be intimidating for people to do. I still recommend you try it, because do a little bit. I did a couple videos on the eyes and the mouth and the nose, and give it a shot, because it's in the end, sometimes you're going to want a piece with a fully fleshed out face, not hidden behind all the accoutrements that we
and like the nose that sits up under the hat, the kind of the hat droops over the face type with the round nose and bulbous nose or whatever. And those are really good things to start with, because you don't have to draw a face.
Right, exactly. I mean, sometimes the mouth itself can be a very difficult thing to carve, because you're trying to get two lips, and then the shape of the chin all to come together. And I find sometimes that's an easy, because they're usually very small cuts, depending on the size piece you're using. And you can easily overcut and turn a smile into a big frown or something like that. But it's something that you can play around with and do, but you don't necessarily have to. This shouldn't be something that you stress over. It should be something that you're having fun with. And like we do this because it's really enjoyable and kind of addictive to do. And, if we can get other people interested in it, then hey, why not? We're all doing a good thing, right?
Absolutely. And that's really kind of like with the whole carving community, it's just such good people. There's so many good people out there. And I know, at least, do you have a carving club close to you that you're part of?
I actually, years ago, probably when I first got into carving, there was a club out in Pennsylvania across the river from where I am. I went to, they had a character carver come in at the time and do a session. And there was a lot of really good carvers. Some people were not necessarily that took the little class with this. I think it was a weekend class with this character carver. I think he was one of the character carvers of America. He's one of their members. I forget who it was actually. It's literally going back probably more than 15 years. And but we basically used, and I'm sure you've seen them too, where they do a rough out. You all get a rough out, and it was a fairly large figure, maybe like that. It was and you choose which one you want. Rough outs, you buy them, and then you finish it up. It's not really that's not my style. I don't like doing that. I understand the benefit for people to learn how to do the detail component to it. And then some people like that. And, it wasn't something that I particularly found that interesting, but, I definitely see the benefits of that. They were maybe, I forget which club what they went by, but that's really it. I haven't gone to any clubs or anything like that. I pretty much sit in my little room and whittle away on my own.
And really, it's like, I'm fortunate where I am. There's two clubs that are like 40 minutes one way or 40 minutes the other way. So, it's kind of, once I think at first it was more of an intimidating thing for me to walk into a place where there was a bunch of experienced carvers that are going to look at my work and be like, "What are you doing?" But I always encourage people to get involved because I found out there was just so many good people there that are willing to help
Yeah.
you
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
show you one little tip or one little trick, or like we were talking about stropping and a knife and stuff. And I mean, I've learned some of the things, about stropping just from those old guys that you pick up their knife and man, you better be careful,
Right.
because you bump yourself with that one, you're going to have a cut, and then it's like just so many things you can learn and just, you know, we don't even like occasionally our clubs will have seminar, a
Mhm.
little. We're going to do the shelf elves, or we're going to do
Right.
the work on a cowboy rough out or whatever,
Right.
and those are cool, but most of the time we're just sitting around shooting the bull,
Yeah, right. Right. Oh
the
yeah.
camaraderie of it, and
Right.
just getting to talk in a
Everybody,
place where
having an interest, and it's a good excuse to get together
yeah,
and sort of just, BS a bit.
yeah,
So that's always it's always kind of fun.
and
And if you're all, like you said, every so often you do pick up some good tips that are
yeah,
beneficial, especially if you're starting out. It can really help you get over that hump. Like, and again, I'll go back to the same thing, getting that knife sharp. And I can't
yeah,
stress that enough. If anybody who's watching this and's been with us this long, it takes anything away from all this, it's get your knife super super
yeah,
sharp. In
yeah,
fact, it's kind of screwy. I find it difficult to wear gloves and carve at the same time.
yeah,
I kind of
same,
recommend it for beginners because you're gonna, I hate to say it, but you're gonna cut yourself. It's a
same,
given.
yeah,
It's a given. So don't be intimidated by that. And Lord knows I've cut myself many times. Um,
yeah,
and I still do. Most of the time when I cut myself today is because my knives are so sharp that I'm not paying attention. And when I'm doing a video and I go and I grab the
yeah,
knife and I either push my thumb against the sharp edge while I'm grabbing it. In fact, last night I was doing a video, and I don't know if I'll finish this one. Maybe I will. And I had to stop the video because I literally was switching a knife and I went and I grabbed the knife. And again, because you're videoing, you're not your mind's not focused as well as it should be. And I grabbed
yeah,
it and I literally, sliced the edge of my thumb on that. And I said, well, at least I know my knives are sharp. But
yeah.
I tend to do more stupid cuts like that than I do when I'm actually carving.
Oh yeah, no, I know, I agree with you.
Really,
It's like I think once you get the techniques down and you feel comfortable enough that whether you're being stupid with the knife or if you're being careful. Sometimes like I'll find myself in the video trying to go faster than I should,
right.
you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I better be careful, I'm going to end up cutting myself. And
Right.
uh,
Yeah, well,
that
that's I think, one of the difficulties with videoing is sometimes because you really want to keep the piece in the frame of reference,
right,
and
yeah,
normally and I'm sure you're the same way, if we're carving and we're not videoing it, you're going to be moving the piece closer.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, that
I'm
was
up
I
there in the year, so my eyesight's not like it used to
oh,
be.
I'm right
And
there with you, man.
you know,
That was probably one of the hardest things for me
mhm,
was sitting and like we were talking earlier about getting that right camera angle and
right,
getting the right view and the view that's good for the viewer,
mhm,
and the view that's good for the viewer is not the view that's good for the carver.
right,
Because when you're trying to carve with a camera
mhm,
between your hands or over your head or over your
right,
shoulder or something like that,
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
and you know like a lot of times I'll sit over here in my lounge chair. I mean, I've got a tile floor, so I can carve and chips get all over the place and I can sweep them up,
Right.
so I sit comfortable when I'm
Mhm.
carving
Yeah.
for myself, but when
Right,
I'm
you
making a
can sit,
video,
right, you can
it's not
sit.
comfortable. I'm not comfortable carving the way I do with a
If
for a
you do it
video
for a
camera.
video, you definitely get tired out a lot faster because
Yeah.
you're really keeping it. I've tried different camera angles. I've done most of my videos from directly above, and only recently did I switch to having the camera over my left shoulder, so to speak. And I think
Hmm.
I rewatch them, and I think that happens to be a slightly better view for the viewer. It doesn't look
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
cropped or as tight as the overhead view. But
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot. I don't have a big channel, so I'm not. It's if it works, it works. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that being said, you're at 845 subscribers right now. So,
that's
guys,
where I
if
was
you're
at.
watching this video with us, jump on over to Ken's channel, check it out. He's got some really good stuff and really good videos, and I appreciate him taking the time out for us to come on and talk a little bit about his channel and his carving. And I think we'll get you to 1,000 subscribers, and at
That
least
would
you'd
be
be
great.
able to do some put some monetization on it. At first, I was like, I don't know if I want ads on my videos and all that. And then I was sitting in the car. My wife was in the store, and I was sitting in the car, and one of my videos popped up on my phone, and I started watching it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, YouTube's already running ads
Mm,
on my video,
yeah, they
so
do.
if they're going to run ads on my video, I'm at least going to make some money off of it, a
Yeah,
couple
I don't.
cents,
I don't
few
even know how that
change,
works. Right.
few pennies,
I
you
literally
know.
don't know how that works. And I started same thing. I started seeing ads pop up in the beginning of my videos, and I'm like,
Yeah.
of all, I'm thinking, boy, their algorithm's not working if they really think that putting an ad in front of my video is going to help
Oh, they
help
put it,
them
yeah.
because
Well, that's the thing. They
the
put them in
couple
front
hundred
of,
views you get.
they
But
put them in everybody's videos. So
yeah, so I
it's
guess
like you
that's
might
just
as well make a little change off of it
if it
anyway,
works, I guess,
But
but
you got to have 1,000 subscribers, and you got to have 4,000 watch hours a
okay,
time. So,
all right. Well, I don't know
we'll
where I'm at with that,
get
but
you the 1,000 subscribers for
we'll,
sure after this
we'll get to
video.
that.
So, but
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time out, man. It
Anytime.
was nice meeting you, nice talking to you,
You too.
and I enjoy your videos. Keep up the good work, and I think we'll all have a little fun, and like we were talking earlier about maybe doing some collaborations together. We'll stay in touch, and we'll figure some things out, and we'll have a good time doing it.
That's it. I agree. I
Yeah,
appreciate you contacting me to do this. I was, happy to do it, and it's exciting to be asked by you to do that.
I
I
appreciate it.
really do appreciate that. It's
I
very, very
appreciate
kind of you.
I appreciate your thumbs up video.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, I was watching it one day, and I thought thumbs up Whittle, and I popped it on there, and I thought, man, that is cool. He did a thumbs up, and then the next thing you know, I'm like, you kind of made it for my
Yeah. Well,
benefit, and I was like, well, now that
yeah,
was that was pretty cool, man. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
no, no.
And part of my reason to do the top 10 videos was to get you guys out there and get, everybody's like, well, you should have been on the video. And I was like, well, technically, my channel has been going for 3 years, but I was like you, I started it and then I took a break, and I didn't do nothing for like a whole 6 months to a year,
Mhm.
and I used the criteria in the top 10 of channels that have been either 2 years or less,
Right.
so it
Yeah.
was like,
I just think
I was
I
like,
slipped
plus,
in with that.
plus I
Yeah.
wanted to get everybody out there. I mean, I think when as we were talking earlier about how much time you actually put in it to put a 20-minute, 30-minute,
Yeah.
45-minute video in, people don't really realize the time that you put into putting that video out. So, I want to get everybody out there and do what I can to help the carving community grow
Well, I definitely
and
appreciate it.
pick up new carvers, and all of our channels that I'm doing shows with, podcasts with, is all geared towards beginners. So if you're a beginner carver, check out Ken's channel. He's got some good projects on there for you, and I appreciate it, buddy. And
Peace.
hope everybody has a good next 2022. And we'll be back shortly with a video, and we'll talk to you guys soon. So I
Take care.
appreciate it, Ken. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you
Ron.
soon.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye bye.
Thanks, man.
Take care.